Initially, when I said that I would be speaking about Meghan's Harper's Bazaar cover again, I thought we would be circling back to do a proper Sussex style, meaning we look at every outfit, we break it down piece by piece, I give my opinions on it, I talk about why it works, I talk about the different ways that it could have been done, I talk about what I love about the way it was done. Y'all know my typical Sussex style. If you haven't seen them, they're a playlist on my YouTube channel. I had no idea that I would be circling back for this reason, but here we are. Over the course of a few days since the magazine has come out, I have seen so many opinions from pro-Sussex people, from anti-Sussex people. Actually, I don't see that many from anti-Sussex people. I see a few from the people who claim to be neutral, which anti-Sussex people, okay, I see you. I know what you're doing. But anyway, I've seen varying opinions. And the thing is, artwork, expression, creativity, it drives opinion. And it doesn't always have to align with every person. As a matter of fact, it is literally impossible to resonate with every person. It is impossible to appeal to everyone's sense of style, creativity, their perspective, their preference, what have you. I expected people to feel one way or the other. And as a matter of fact, one of the key driving points that I made when I defended this cover and the spread was that Meghan being Meghan is so polarizing because she is so influential. She as a human being is not polarizing because there isn't anything to dislike about her. If you don't know much about her, I can't imagine that you would quote unquote like someone that you don't know. So it's not about someone having to like her, but the fact that she is so disliked by so many people and has yet to do anything to drive that disdain, it just tells you how powerful she is. Her existence is triggering menial people. She represents something that they can't stand, and that's progress. She represents independence. She, as a human being, just living her life, unfurls people who've never even met her, unfurls them to the point that they have created entire profiles, entire online platforms dedicated to her. And they pretend or they say or they convey this message that they dislike her. But at its core, they're inspired by her. And they don't know what to do with that. And the reason they don't know what to do with that is because she represents things that they have been taught to hate. She represents things that they have been taught to misunderstand intentionally. She represents things that they have taught to try to subdue or to suppress. She is a woman. She is a Black biracial woman. She is an American. She is independent. She did not come from money. She's not a Nepo baby. She worked for every damn thing she has. And she didn't just work in one space. Mama was successful all across the board. She had a double major from Northwestern when she graduated. She worked for the U.S. Embassy in Argentina. She knew world leaders long before she was in the royal family. Her path was set. Her destiny was already what it was going to be, whether she married who she married or not. She not only did all of those things, but she managed to do so graciously with a smile and treating people with nothing but the utmost respect. Not only that, but she's always managed to do these wonderful feats, these amazing, successful things, from acting to government to being highly educated to being quite wealthy independently. She's worked for every penny she's made. She has managed to do all of these amazing things, right? And she's managed to do them all before Harry came into the picture, which it only continued to progress when Harry came into the picture. That's what a good, healthy relationship will do for you. You will continue to elevate one another, and they did that for one another. They were both blazing their own very successful paths. But the point that I'm making here is the reason people have such a visceral reaction to Meghan, even though she's done nothing to create that or to initiate that or provoke that, is simply because her being her living her life, her existing the way that she chooses to exist, it unfurls people who don't want to see someone who looks like her, someone who comes from where she comes from, someone who does it with a conscience, someone who never had to undercut or overstep anyone to get ahead, someone who literally defies the notion that it's a dog-eat-dog world. Well, how do you explain a woman who was on a show for 7 successful seasons? She's also been the leading lady in several rom-coms, several movies. We've seen her work her way up, and she's never had to be cutthroat. She's never had to be dirty. She's never had to resort to some of the things some of the other people, no judgment to them, but we're speaking of Meghan. She's never had to do some things to survive. She's only done everything that she's done through good hard work, dedication, skill, and talent with a smile on her face. She is a threat to people who have been sold the dream, or should I say the nightmare, that in order to be successful, You have to be a secret or quiet deviant. You have to portray a certain persona in front of the camera, and then you have to be a complete asshole behind the scenes. It's the same kind of stamp of disapproval that Beyonce gets. People struggle to accept the fact that she has made so much success for herself through her, and with the help of her family, obviously. She's had help, but she has made everything she has made by simply working hard, staying dedicated, and never letting up. And she's always managed to do so with showing nothing but the most respect for other people. She's never had to undercut or overstep anyone to get ahead. And she also defies the idea that you have to live in a dog-eat-dog world to get ahead. You don't. But I think what it does is it triggers people who have done those things, or it triggers people who have created some kind of moral superiority over these people who they truly admire. But what they tell themselves is, well, I'm not willing to sleep around to get ahead, or I'm not willing to be a yacht girl to get ahead, or I'm not willing to harm people, or I'm not willing to be a bully, or I'm not willing to I. And they make up all these stories about what they think these successful people have done to get ahead, when really what they did was just work hard. Really what they did was hone in on a goal and stay relentless until they got there. Really what they did was just treat people well. Really what they did was work while still trying to get where they're going. Meghan has had many jobs when she was trying to get into the acting scene. Meghan has had to work. She was at Paper Source. We know that Meghan was gift wrapping. We know that Meghan was doing calligraphy. There were no quick and easy access passes. There were no, I'm going to do this thing and sleep with that person and pimp myself out to this person. No. So the things that those people tell themselves to sleep at night because they really need a way to assuage their jealousy, when they realized that those lies were debunked, they were left with nothing but looking at themselves and say, well, the reason I didn't get it was because it wasn't for me. The reason I didn't get it because I'm not talented. The reason I didn't get it was because I didn't work hard. The reason I didn't get it was because I was focused on everyone else instead of focused on my own path. They have to sit with their own inadequacies. That's what they're upset about. And so every time they see a Meghan, or every time they see a Beyonce, or every time they see a Michelle Obama or a Barack Obama, or these people who they have been told success is impossible for them unless they are a secret deviant eating babies and in some kind of eyes wide shut situation. When they look at those people and realize, oh shit, they were just really good people who worked hard and got where they wanted to go, then what's my excuse? And that's the four walls closing in that they're trying to avoid. And every time Meghan shows up on a magazine cover, and every time Beyonce graces the stage, and every time Barack Obama shows up and we're reminded what a real president looks like, and every time Michelle Obama shows up and we realize what it looks like to have a real educated first lady who had her own life and career, we're reminded that these things are accessible and attainable. And for those of us who look at those people and clap for them and cheer for them, we're inspired. But for the people who look at them and say it shouldn't have been you, they're only reminded of their own inadequacies. They're not mad at Meghan. They're not mad at Michelle Obama. They're not mad at Beyonce. They're mad at the inadequate person staring back at them in the mirror. I kind of have developed a habit of categorizing people who criticize or offer feedback or simply speak about Harry and Meghan into one of a couple of categories or tiers. Now, we'll start with the Sussex squad, first and foremost. Woo-woo. People who support Harry and Meghan, people who do the work, people who do the defending, people who correct the narratives, people who bring the facts, people who offer actual substantive coverage of Harry and Meghan. And then there are the people who like Harry and Meghan or who simply don't dislike them. And they say, hey, there's no reason to not like them. I don't know enough about them to like them or adore them or support them, but there's nothing that would give anyone a reason to dislike them. There are some people who fall into that category. Then there are people who say, I don't like or dislike. I don't know much about them. You're a neutral. You're fine. Nobody's going to bother you. Just stay where you are. As long as you don't lean into the trolling, just stay where you are. And then there's the others. No matter what Harry and Meghan do, they're going to find fault. No matter what Harry and Meghan do, they're going to create a story. They're going to create a narrative. They're going to build upon an established narrative. They're going to come out of the woodwork, throwing their best haymakers and trying their best to create some kind of fault or false narrative or some kind of insult or criticism or put down or belittling story about them. Harry and Meghan could create world peace. They could solve world hunger. They could end poverty. And these people would be like, why didn't you do it yesterday? Or these people would be like, you ended poverty, but it's not enough. They would find something for those people. I know what the signs look like. I know how to vet those people, and those people have absolute zero bearing in my mind. When I see those people, I dismiss, I select not interested, whatever it is in the preferred app to get those people from being invisible to me or get those people to be invisible to me. I do that. So I don't ever consider their opinion. And that actually isn't just for Harry and Meghan. That's for anyone. If I've recognized that someone is hell bent on disliking or criticizing or belittling or putting down something, I no longer see your opinion as valid. Period. Because what does it offer us? It's not constructive. It's 100% personal. It's not based in fact. Hell, it's usually not even based in real merit. It's not even based in a real opinion because it doesn't have an opinion. It's only an extension of your disdain for someone based on your own personal bias. That doesn't offer the world anything other than the fact that you need to go heal. So I completely ignore them. But when this Harper's Bazaar magazine came out, I saw varying opinions from people who were in the other categories. The Sussex squad, woo woo. The people who like Harry and Meghan, the people who don't know whether they like Harry and Meghan, and the people who don't have an opinion either way. And I saw so many different opinions. And the first thing I thought was for the people who loved it and the people who disliked it and the people who just had strong feelings one way or the other, I said, that is what artwork does. That is what self-expression does. That is what doing something with your heart, doing something with meaning, doing something with feeling, invoking authenticity. That is what it does. Whether we like it or not, whether I want people to look at this and think exactly what I think, I don't. But whether that's my opinion, that's fine. Whether I look at this and say, I hate this, it's bringing up ill feelings in me, it's driving up something in me, not hate her, but something in this artwork, something in this spread is driving this feeling in me. Whatever your strong emotional attachment or reaction, is to this spread, that's on you. And it's neither right nor wrong because it is an opinion. Where we get into the right or wrong is when we offer criticisms and we offer these insults to Meghan or just the people behind the spread, or when we make these false claims in order to drive our narrative that's based on our opinion, that's when you get into murky water. Because I saw people saying that there was nothing provocative about this spread. And I thought, again, you might not find it provocative. You're entitled to having that opinion. But to say it isn't provocative, well, that would be to ignore the entire internet. Because if something is not provocative, people wouldn't be talking about it. If something is not provocative, people wouldn't be having a strong emotional reaction to it one way or the other. If something is not provocative, if something didn't have something to say, if there was no substance, no authenticity, no message behind it, if there was no real genuine energy attached to it and no real genuine creativity or expression attached to it, you wouldn't have even noticed it existed. To say that this beautiful, stunning, sleek, this amazing spread filled with depth, to say that it is not provocative. Meanwhile, the internet hasn't stopped talking about it in damn near a week. That would be a lot. Now listen, there are people who are hell-bent on casting aspersions to Meghan. They will do that. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people who love to preface their videos and their commentary and their tweets and their threads with, hey, I don't see anything wrong with Meghan. I like her and I hate the hate that she gets, she doesn't deserve. But ... Well, that but and ellipsis tells me a lot more than I think you realize. Again, just because you don't hate her doesn't mean that you have to absolutely love her. I'm not saying that. And just because you don't hate her doesn't mean you have to absolutely support everything she does and pretend that everything she does is amazing to you, even if it's not and you don't like it, blah, blah, blah. No one is telling you to mold yourself or your opinion into anything that it is not. What I am saying is I would investigate where that but and that ellipsis are coming from. When you preface something and say, I don't hate Meghan, I don't understand the hate Meghan gets, but ... I'm left to wonder, why did you need a but there? That is a full stop. If you don't dislike someone and you don't know why they received the hate that they have received, what is there to contradict there? What is to question there? There is no need for a but. If you simply have a criticism, or you simply have feedback, or you simply want to share your opinion, by all means, do that. And we can tell in your dialogue and in your rhetoric whether or not this is coming from a sound place or not. So if you say, hey, this magazine really didn't do it for me. I preferred when she did this cover, or I prefer when she posed like that, or I preferred when she talked about this. You are entitled to that. And you are in no way, shape, or form required to to do a backflip and jump over fences to make something someone else does your cup of tea. You don't have to. But it's so interesting when that opinion of this didn't invoke anything in me. Okay, hey, by all means, go for it. Then that turns into this wasn't provocative at all. This was lazy work. I felt like she didn't do her best. I am reading screenshots of things people have said, things that Neutral and Up have said, not the haters. And I vetted before I screenshotted things. I vetted each person's commentary and where they were coming from and other things they've said about Meghan, their digital footprint. I wanted to make sure that I was talking to the right party. When these people go from their own personal opinion is A to Z, and then that personal opinion is then transformed into an outright blanket statement that is just simply untrue, that is where I get a little irritated. That is where I say, what you are doing is manipulating the narrative. What you are doing is using your opinion as the base for this argument that is just simply not factual. To say that this isn't provocative, to say that you didn't find it provocative is fine. To say that it isn't provocative, that's just simply not true. The argument or the conversation online about this cover hasn't stopped. It's been going on for damn near a week. And when I say conversation, I don't mean simple praise. I mean people saying what it makes them feel, how people have responded to it, the way that people have been inspired to see her turn this corner. Now, for those of us who've been following Harry and Meghan, we have seen Meghan leaning into this kind of form of self-expression for quite some time now. We've seen her have this very independent trail, to have this very outspoken, direct, this is me now, this is my narrative, I'm going to own it. We've been seeing her hone in on that for a while. And every iteration of it just makes me more proud of her. Just makes me clap for her. It just makes me like, go girl, go, you got this. But for some people, they may have missed everything up until this point. That's fine. They may have missed the cut. They may have missed Variety. They may have missed some of the other, the People, some of the other things that she's done so far. And so this was their first introduction to her as Meghan Sussex. That's okay too. I'm not saying people have to keep tabs. What I am saying is before we just cast a blanket statement of this is boring, this is lazy, this isn't provocative, I think it's important to recognize where there is fact and where there is fiction and where there is an opinion. To say that it's boring to you, that is fine. I don't agree, but you have the right to feel that way. Now, what you were expecting from Meghan Sussex, I don't know, but I wasn't expecting this. I was delightfully impressed. I try not to put Harry and Meghan into a box. Now we're leaning into my opinion. I try not to put Harry and Meghan into a box. Whenever they sit down with any media outlet, I hold my breath a little bit because I just know how the media works. And thanks in large part to them, they've enlightened me a lot. And so whenever they sit down with a media outlet, I'm just like, don't do right by them. Don't play no games. I don't have time today. So every time I see that they've talked to someone, like when Prince Harry did the Guardian interview, I'm all right now, Guardian. We've had to go toe to toe a couple times and it went well. When Meghan sat down with People, I held my breath because we've seen them print false exclusives. So anytime they sit down with a publication, my first inclination isn't really the spread or the actual interview. It's the tone of the interview first and who is conducting the interview and writing the story. I always kind of go into it first with that and hold my breath until I feel like we got the all clear. Then I read the interview and then I take in the spread. It is a multi-layer experience for me and I enjoy it every time. Not your bad, you don't have to, but I certainly do. And this was delightfully surprising. Again, I didn't know what to expect, but when I found out she was doing an interview with Harper's Bazaar, I was like, wait a minute, what is that about to be like? Because they are a very unique publication. They are a very unique magazine. A lot of times they sway away from what's the norm. They're very creative in a lot of different ways. So I didn't know what to expect. I've been very pleased with Harper's Bazaar, especially since Harry and Meghan's Nigeria trip, because Chelsea Sanchez, and I believe it's Chelsea Sanchez and Rosa Sanchez, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look it up to correct that if I'm wrong. But Chelsea and Rosa, the reporters who report on the royal matters for Harper's Bazaar, have done an incredible job. An incredible job, from their coverage of Colombia to their coverage of Nigeria to their simple royal coverage of Harry and Meghan to them making sure to call Meghan her name every single time without fail. They have impressed me in so many ways. Their facts are always on point. Their sources are always on point. They're very clear and direct. They're very fair, unbiased, but also sometimes just quite pleasant coverage. So I have considered them kind of at the top for myself. So when I found out she was sitting down with them, I thought, that makes sense, but also, oh my goodness, I wonder what the heck that spread is going to look like. Meghan and Harper's Bazaar? Oh, I bet that's going to be incredible. And it was. So you've heard my opinion. I kind of want to get into what the criticisms are saying and what actually provoked this video before we did the Sussex style. And some of the criticisms from the people who are neutral and up was that it wasn't creative enough, that they felt like Meghan should have worn makeup. I am being dead serious that this is stuff that people actually said in the year of 2020 of the 5. People actually said this. Just bear with me here. She should have worn makeup. Some people said, I didn't like her hair. Some people said, I felt like it was boring. I felt like she didn't give enough in the interview. Some people said, I feel like Harper's Bazaar didn't do enough with the cover. We wanted something to wow us. And then someone even said there was nothing in her eyes. And I said, now, wait a minute now. Hold on. Everything else has been BS, but now those are fighting words, because that is exactly where I started when I talked about these photos, was like, whoa, look at the feeling in her face and eyes. Look at how much emotion she is giving us. Look at her stance, her posture, her hands. This woman was evoking feeling in her hands. And we talked about it. We talked about how textured the photos were. We talked about it. I love this spread. This is probably one of my favorites in general, not just Meghan spreads or Harper's Bazaar spreads. This is one of my favorite spreads. And the reason those criticisms kind of stuck out to me was, again, neutral people and up, was because they were BS. They were BS. Again, their opinion is their opinion. But here's what I want to address in that. They used photos of Princess Diana in Harper's Bazaar to compare it to Meghan in Harper's Bazaar. Now, to be fair, their criticism was that Diana's photos had a lot of emotion and Meghan's didn't. And when I went to look, I said, no, wait a minute. I actually have that copy of Harper's Bazaar. I have every Princess Diana magazine cover, actually. And I'm working on collecting all of Meghan's. But when I went and looked at the one I had in my hand, and then I went and looked at the spread, I said, the only difference is she's smiling. You have a white or a black background. She was sitting on a stool. She was in a dress. She was smiling. That's the only real difference, other than it being two different people doing two different photo shoots. But as far as it being this just Wally creative thing that blows Meghan's out of the water and shows her how it should be done, I was just like, I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing two very well done spreads done by two very amazing people who belong to the same family and are connected to the same wonderful man. That's what I see. I see a woman who set a precedent. I see a woman who did the unimaginable all by herself. And then I see a woman who paved the way for her son to make sure no other woman would ever have to do that in that family alone again. And he followed suit. He protected his wife because his mother showed him the path. If that man is not the walking embodiment of that woman's spirit, then I don't know what is. But that's not the point. That's a whole different conversation. But the point that I'm making here is using someone's mother-in-law to try to criticize them is a new low. Using Diana to try to criticize Harry's wife specifically is pretty guttural. You in the gutter, baby. And then lastly, if you're going to be critical, at least be right. We don't ask much. We just ask you to be right. When I looked at Meghan's photos, when I looked at Diana's photos, I saw her smiling. I saw her freedom. I saw her happiness. I saw a woman who had been emotionally beat down. And she rose like a phoenix, all by herself. And then when I looked at Meghan's, I saw a woman who they attempted to beat down, but her husband pulled the plug quite early and said, oh no, I've seen this before. Because is that not what you do when you break a generational curse? When you see those patterns coming back and you say, oh, what could we do different this time? I'm not going to let my wife stay in this. I'm not my dad. I'm not going to let my wife sit in this. He did everything he could prior to. I'm going to work within the system. I'm going to work within the chain of command. I'm going to give and give and give as much as I can. We're going to compromise. We're going to openly communicate. We're going to work within the fold, within the rules, within the margins that they've set for us. We're going to do all we can. And when he realized they were hell bent on harming him and his wife and child, he said, oh, I'm not the one. And he didn't. Harry said, I'm not the one or the two. And he took his beautiful wife and beautiful child and got the hell out of Dodge. And every single day I see them out smiling and happy. I'm very grateful that he made that choice. The point that I'm making here is you can't compare those women because while their plights were very similar, they are two different women in two different periods of time. And they had two different types of support systems. Second, they weren't in the same place of their life. Yes, Diana was independent. She was alone. She was divorced. She was independent. She was blazing a trail by herself in the 90s. Meghan is in 2025 right now, in the 2020s. She has her husband. Her husband left with her. What Charles should have done, I won't say he should have left with Diana, but he absolutely should have protected her. He shouldn't have been her biggest adversary, which is what he was hell-bent on being, and he absolutely was. But Meghan's story is slightly different. A lot of the things that came at Meghan weren't based on her having a cheating husband. A lot of the things that came at Meghan were based on her being a Black woman or a biracial woman. A lot of the things that came at her were because they wanted to stifle her. They didn't like how independent she was. They didn't like that she had a voice. They didn't like that she was American. They didn't like that she was an actor. They just didn't like that the woman wasn't white. They can sum it up in as many categories as they want to. They were racist against her, and they hated it even more that their son, their son-in-law, their brother, what have you, he wouldn't stand with them in their wrong. He held them accountable. So it was a double punch. It was a 2-for-1. We already hate her, and you won't let us do that openly. They hated just how much of Diana's spirit Harry has and how much he brought back with him. And so that's a different conversation. But the reason I'm bringing that up is to compare these two women at those times in their lives based on a magazine cover is kind of crazy to me. I could be wrong, but that just seems weird to me. But then two, to say that Meghan had no emotion in her eyes, but Diana did, is also very strange. It's just, to me, that's very strange. And then you read the article, which most people don't. They don't do their due diligence. They don't do any of that. They don't find out what's the story behind the spread. They don't do any work at all. Then you read the article and you learn more about Meghan and the place that she's in her life and the life lessons that she's learned. She talks about her relationship with Harry. She talks about being a mom. She talks about being a businesswoman and just this very beautiful little pocket of life that she's in right now. And she is sharing that. She's talking about her projects. She's talking about what's next for her. She's talking about the lessons and the mistakes that she's experienced and learned from. This was such an in-depth interview. And then you read that and then you come back to the photos and you see every bit of what she said conveyed through the eyes, through the hands, through the posture, through the poses, through the spread. It was the visual representation of what she said, of where she is in her life right now, of what she has experienced up until now and where she's going. I say that this spread, I say that this interview, I say that this edition of Harper's Bazaar, I say that this did exactly what it was supposed to do. You just have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to read. You have to be willing to look with an unbiased eye and just experience it for what it is, not try to make it what it's not. I don't see that there's a need to compare. I see that if you want to talk about all of it, you should. But talking about all of it doesn't mean you have to put one down. I saw emotion in Diana's eyes, lots of it. I saw emotion in Meghan's eyes, lots of it. I saw it in her hands. Again, I said I saw it in her posture. These are things we talked about the day it dropped, fresh off the press reaction. So for people to say it wasn't provocative was crazy because Meghan really can't do anything that isn't provocative, which is why I opened this video the way that I did. Because Meghan has established herself in this world as an influential person by just being herself. That takes some doing. Which is why I kind of get a little peeved when people call her an influencer. There is a big difference between being an influencer and a person with influence. Those are two different things. Similar, not the same. Meghan is a person with influence, a significant amount of influence that it has its own name, the Meghan effect. So that's not an influencer, that's an influential person. And so when I saw this spread for the first time and we were reading the interview and looking at the photos at the same time in tandem, I was blown away by the photos. And I also loved the order of the photos in the spread. I thought that was very creative, that they let them gradually tell the story visually as the interview told the story with words. I thought it was such a cool back and forth that they gave us. Very well done. Also, for the people who are saying it's not creative, I'm interested in knowing what their definition of creative is. Creative expression does not have to look one way. Creative expression doesn't have to invoke feelings of wacky and super colorful. I think people want it to be this super dramatic circus kind of vibe, and creative is creative. It's expression. And if she isn't feeling like wearing a headpiece that's 10 feet high with feathers and bows and sequins, then she shouldn't. If the place in her life that she's in is this self-assured, strong-willed, confident survivor, this loving, this genuine, this warm, but also hardworking person who's balancing all these amazing things that are somehow relatable, but also extremely cool and once in a lifetime experiences. Like, how many people can say they've owned a successful brand? How many people can say they have hosted their own show? How many people can say they're royal? But then also, lots of people can say they've held down several jobs while also being a wife and mom. So there's so many facets to this interview, and I felt like the spread beautifully and creatively expressed what she discussed in this interview. And I thought it was masterfully done. I also thought having her have so much structure in her posture and in her clothes and wardrobe, having her have all of that, but then have it contrasted with the whimsical hair and no makeup. I thought, what a perfect expression of duality. What a perfect representation of Meghan right now. Because do we not talk about her walking barefoot in frilly dresses and her hair tousled through a garden throughout the day, playing with her husband and children. And then she's a businesswoman in structured wide leg pants with a button down with her jewelry on and her famous Cartier stack and her hair pulled back, getting to business. I thought this spread was the perfect expression of the duality of Meghan's moment right now, which is why when they titled it Meghan Meets Her Moment, I said, they get it. But they get it because they were telling a story. They were expressing a person, not an ideal. They were expressing a person. They were representing a person. They were creatively conveying a story from an actual human being based on her real, genuine, authentic experience as she expressed it to them. She wasn't here to fit a mold. She wasn't here to cosplay Rihanna or cosplay Zendaya or cosplay Beyonce or pretend to be something she's not. She wasn't here to do a Kendall Jenner-esque spread. She wasn't here to do something provocative like Kim Kardashian. She did something that was provocative in the way that Meghan does provocative, the way Meghan stops the moment, the way Meghan commands attention in her way. It doesn't mean anyone else's way isn't right. It means her way was right for her. And that is what they gave us. For anyone to say that this isn't provocative when this woman can't even sneeze without 10 other people writing an article about it is crazy, because she can actually not be provocative considering how people have built up entire armies against her and she stands against them. Strong-willed, fearless, courageous, and with a smile on her face, baking in her kitchen barefoot. It's one thing to stand up to me. It's another thing to stand up to me so much that you make me feel insignificant. And that's exactly what she does to those people. She shows them they can't take her moment. They can't command her moment. They cannot take up space in her mind. They cannot make her live in a shell. They cannot make her cower. They cannot make her hide. The only thing they do, and the only thing they can do, is get the hell out of her way. I feel like this was provocative in many ways. There were so many layers to this publication. There were so many layers to this spread. And to say it wasn't provocative is to simply not pay attention. You're entitled to your opinion. By all means, I don't want to change anyone's mind because that's exactly what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to express, it's supposed to bring out expression from you. It's supposed to invoke something within you. We will never look at the same thing and feel the exact same experience, have the exact same experience. It's impossible. But to outright make up stuff simply because your opinion differs from the crowd is kind of crazy. So in my opinion, you don't have to enjoy the spread. You don't have to like it. But to say she should have worn makeup in 2025 is exactly the reason why I'm glad she didn't. Because who are you to put that woman in a box? Who are you to reduce her to her makeup, to her face, to the way that she makes herself up? Who are you to reduce her to her hairstyle? Who are you to reduce her to, she should have done more shots like this and that and blah, blah. Or you can take it for what it is. And if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you don't. And then you can move on. Because they didn't say it was Tom, Dick, and Harry, Sally, Sue, and Jane's moment. They said it was Meghan's moment. And damn it, they were right. Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video. Something that I'm reminded of constantly is when you are provocative, when you are a conversation starter, when you are extremely influential, the conversations will happen whether you like them or not. And it's best to simply detach from them and allow people to do with it what they will while you live your life in peace. And it seems to me that that is the stage of life Meghan is in. It's just, I'm going to live. Get out of my way. I added the get out of my way because get out of her way, please. But no, she is just living in this moment, experiencing this moment and getting the most out of it. She and Harry both seem to be in this phase of just living life to the very last drop. And I love that. And that's where I'm attempting to get to, of really getting the most out of life, really experiencing life to the best of my ability and not missing moments and not living in the future, or worrying about the future or being stuck in the past, just being right here, planted in the present and experiencing every bit of it. And that's how you get the most out of life. Plan for the future, but live in the present. And it's great to see them seemingly doing the same thing. How hard they're working, all the cool projects that they're putting out, all the really great things that they are still doing pertaining to their work. I think it's great. And I'm glad that we have a front row seat. And I love that we have this beautiful spread to add to that. Great work to all involved. Ben Skirvin on the makeup did a wonderful job, or excuse me, on the hair did a wonderful job. For the styling, the makeup, the brands chosen. I think y'all heard me live talk about how impressed I was with the row. Because I never really looked their way, but the way Meghan was styled with so many pieces from the row in this shoot, I did a double take. I said, oh, you know what? Let me spend a little time on their website because she looked phenomenal. All of the outfits looked phenomenal, but the pieces from the row were really a standout simply because I didn't realize that they made garments and pieces that beautiful. I think they did a great job styling this shoot, especially in tandem with the interview. Thought it was great. But those are my thoughts. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Again, this is in no way, shape, or form a call to action for everybody to say they love the shoot and to say they love the I have no bearing over anyone's opinion, and you are entitled to that. The only issue that I had was the comparisons, the outright lies, basically making blanket statements based on an opinion but stating them as fact. I think that's manipulative, and it's counterproductive. It's just not fun. I mean, you have so much you can do with your voice. Why take up space doing that? But that's just me. Anyway, great job to all involved. I hope we get more spreads. I cannot wait for December 3rd so that we can get With Love Meghan, a holiday celebration. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Prince Harry's upcoming keynote speech. We've got a lot going on, y'all. We're about to have a very busy winter, and I'm looking forward to it. That's all I have for y'all today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel if you feel so inclined, and feel free to share so that more people can find us. Members, you guys got a video on Saturday. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm headed to read your comments and respond right now. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.